Greetings and welcome to Paint Here Now. Once again, I am Will Parody, and we are continuing our exploration series with complementary colors. We have painted with red and green, complementary colors respectively, blue and orange, and yellow and purple. And we are going to continue to explore to see what these things do. Now, the last lessons we've done have been focused on making a landscape kind of a painting out of the complementary colors in white. So we have done red and green and white, red and with two kinds of red, two kinds of green, and then we have also done blue and orange and white, two kinds of blue, two kinds of orange, and we made these cool little paintings out of them. And we're going to continue to do that and to work on that. So here we have the first exercise that we've done with the yellow and the purple. Now, we went back when we first started this, we took just the primary colors and mixed them together without any white at all. And so our lights were with water and letting the thinned paint come through on the surface, on the paper here. And then we decided to add some white and see what that could do. So this was our purple and yellow and white. And again, you can already see there's like some clouds here and some vestiges of landscape and some things. So we're going to have some fun exploring some of the stuff that we might be able to do with this on this piece. And then, we will take the next step, which is to turn something like this into a painting or something more like a finished painting or a recognizable painting. Not that you have to. Something like this makes a nice painting in and of itself, a nice abstraction. But I think it's important in painting at some point, whether you're just starting out or you've been doing it for ages, I think it's important, I do it myself, to have some kind of connection with color in the natural world. Well, I am an abstract painter and very much about another kind of natural world, I guess, through abstraction and that kind of thing. The idea of being able to see what all of these colors that you can mix together with a few different colors can do to relate to the stuff that you see and bring that somehow to your canvas it's a really powerful and even magical thing. So with that said, I hope you're ready. We're going to have some fun. I'm looking forward to doing this. This is going to be fun for me. Purple and yellow, it's going to be an interesting exercise here. They're probably the two complementary colors that I would have in the past, when I used them a lot for mixing, when I was doing a lot of that specific kind of painting, I hadn't explored as much. And with green, there's this natural tendency towards a landscape, and if you mix, because of the green, right? There's trees and there's all the colors of the flora. So much green. And then when you have red, that mixed to the green will make the green much more subtle, brown, muddy, gray, and different colors, so you can get a range of feelings, a range of depths from the flora. You can use that for water and with white and a whole number of other things. Blue, of course, is the color of the sky, often. Of course, orange is too. But, that's something we associate with blue and with the sky and with water. So the idea of doing some kind of a scene, when you actually didn't do water with the blue, we made a nice sky and then did sort of a deserty-ish kind of a scene with the orange. And it lends itself to it. But when you think about colors that you might see in a field or colors of the sky, depending on time of day, you might not think of purple and yellow. So it's going to be very interesting to see how we turn these colors in particular into a landscape. I'm smiling. I'm getting giddy excited about it. So let's get to it. All right. Here we go. Our handy dandy ice cube tray. I wouldn't want to make a specific note here. We've done a couple months of these lessons anyways at this point, I think. And I have used the same ice cube tray without cleaning the paint out at all for the whole time. So what does that mean exactly? Well, sometimes the paint will dry. I try to cover it and keep the paint, so I can reuse it most of the time. But I'll use it, or eventually it might dry a little bit. It's acrylic paint, so it basically will turn to plastic or like paint rock. And so you can... if you add another color to it, if it's dry, and it's not going to affect that wet color. So you can just keep adding on top of your palette and mixing, and that's kind of what I do. Plus, I reuse a lot of the same colors, so they end up just sort of being refreshed a bit. And there you go. That's a way that you can use a palette. Eventually, I might clean all these off and peel it, and it's kind of fun to do. And then you get these nice ice cube chunks of paint, and I use them in some of my other paintings and abstractions that are three-dimensional. So it works out quite well. Anyways, I wanted to share that fun little thing about using these types of things, and yeah, let the palette crust up. Honestly, it's if you're using a palette, especially like a flat palette, it doesn't really matter, but and you just let it dry, and then you paint, rather than clean it, and then you paint on top and so on and so forth. Eventually you'll just be able to peel it off. Like if you're using plastic or something like that, just you'll be able to peel it right off and then use it again rather than it go down the drain or something like that. So that's something to do or something to think about. So anyways, let's get to this painting. I'm going to throw a little bit of water. Real quick. On this paper, this paint will tend to dry fast. And so I tend to try to work fast, and it's okay if it does dry. We just add some more and keep building on it. It's one of the great things about painting and acrylic painting is the layers. I absolutely love the fact that paint allows you to layer your experience, and then it itself becomes more fulfilled. It becomes more. It becomes a greater experience. The painting does. It's in of itself as you add things and let the layers build into some larger than its parts. Anyways. Oh, that's kind of fun and neat. So purple will lend itself nicely to some clouds, as I think you can probably see. What we're going to do is we're going to add a little bit of yellow. So I'm using a purple that's kind of a cooler purple. So here's a warmer purple. It's actually a fluorescent purple, kind of more like a violet, which is to say a little bit warmer, more on the red side. And then there's this purple, which is darker and it's more on the blue side, I would say. And then our yellows, we have a really nice light fluorescent yellow on the cool side, and some yellow, the much darker, getting close to orange, but certainly not yet yellow, like a deep yellow that's on the warmer side. So we're going to have a nice little mix of the types of colors that we get out of the complementary combinations here. So adding a little of this cool yellow to the purple to get, as you can see right away, some nice gray. The cooler your colors are and the cooler your mix, the more of a gray color that you'll tend to get, and the warmer your mix, the more of a brownish color you'll tend to get. And again, your colors, because not all reds and blues are exactly the same, and yellows, even though they're primary colors, right? And they're the three main colors of which everything else is made. There's still different blues and different reds and yellows. Especially like when we were dealing with paint, beyond just theory. So there's going to be all kinds of different combinations of your color mixes, your warms. Some reds will be warmer and some a little bit cooler. Some reds, they'll be red, but they'll be much more with like almost, sanguine, blood-like, or just a little tint of enough of a blue, something that just crimson darkens it just a little bit. Some reds, like a cadmium, for example, might be a little bit more on the light, on the warm side. A little touch of orange, just a touch of fire. So that's one thing about red, too. It's interesting. Red can be fire, it can be blood, it can be flour, or it could be mud. So, all right. So, making this look sort of like a field or grass, which gives me some ideas for later. Let's get back into this. Clouds. Let's not tinker around here. Clouds, we're going to do some nice fluffy round types of clouds, some big motion in the sky. As we don't have any blue in this at all, we're going to keep the sky on the gray side, which would mean some sort of a cloud coverage. Or orange or anything, you know, like we'll be able to get some kind of a sunset-y type of thing here, but I still want to have a pretty well covered sky. So there we go. Now I love this. This is cool. These are good cloud grays in here, nice and subtle. And so, as you've seen, if you've painted with us before, we like to mix right on the canvas itself most of the time, paper in this case. If we can do it. Sometimes I'll mix a little bit like on the edge here and do that kind of a thing for something specific. But especially as we're starting out, I really do like to work it in. Now, yellow is, forget it, it's kind of stronger. Sometimes the fluorescent colors or the tempera type paints they'll be dominated by the acrylics, or at least certain brands. You know, they're just a little bit thinner or not as strong. But this yellow is pretty good. And just, I am going to do one on canvas, I think, coming up. Maybe the next set of lessons. Because there is a difference. There's a difference with what you can do with the paper. It almost feels more watercolorish to me in a way. And a canvas will react differently to pigment. It's can be more forgiving. The paint won't dry quite as fast. The paper will absorb more. So we're making a nice, by making circles. Remember, we're not trying to copy an image or a postcard or anything, or even nature if you're painting outside. We are just trying to get the feeling of clouds, to make the essence of, the spirit of, the reality of clouds appear to the viewer, including yourself, on this page. So we're not emulating any specific clouds. We're not trying to create a photorealistic image. We're not even emulating something in an abstract way that we're looking at. I'm not even imagining in my mind a cloudscape. I am going exclusively by what I am seeing on the canvas. As I'm working, blending the color on the paper, keep saying canvas, proverbial canvas. I trust you folks will know what I mean. Very cool. I like this. I like the grays that we're getting here, this mix. I'm not adding the other oranges and purples to this yet. I'm going to start with the groundish area when we get to those. And if I feel like they could be in the sky, I'll put them in. But right now I know that these colors were going to be a little bit cooler and a little bit more subdued, even though we've got a little fluorescent in there for the yellow. But I knew they were going to sit back nicely as clouds, and the others are going to be a little more fiery in a way. You'll see when we get there. Well, I might be wrong too. I might be like, wow, those are actually working really great for a sky. So there we go. Just a little over half. So, you know what? I don't know if I've really ever talked about this, but I think it's relevant now. You may be familiar with something called the rule of thirds, okay, which is often, especially it's often in photography used, but let's just say the image on a surface, you know, a painting, a photograph, or whatever. of thirds, but that's the moniker. Anyways, which basically states that somewhere, like, you shouldn't just go like put your horizon line right in the middle. It should be up here or here. If you have subject, it shouldn't be right here in the middle. You know, shouldn't just everything grid like in the middle. There should be something here for some dynamic and movement. You know, which sure, there's something to that, but it's not like you can make a very, very real, working, incredible piece without any rule of thirds, with stuff just centered and whatnot. So it's not like there's a need. It's not like there's a compositional black hole if you don't do that. But it's worth noting sometimes that they can add a little extra dynamic. It can be something that you can consider, but it's not something that you should live by. In fact, I would say anything that proclaims, as that says, rule of this, that, is something that should be respectfully and thoughtfully challenged, questioned, or examined. Because life exists in a beautiful way if we let it and guide it and direct it in its own course and not dictate how it has to be, because that will never work. You can't have evolution that way. It doesn't exist, because you need change, you need accident, serendipity, something unexpected. So there. Okay, no. All right. Let's get back to the actual painting. I'm really enjoying this type of cloud coverage here, this thing we've got going on. Again, I'm really specifically not trying to make them like, clouds you might be very readily scientifically identified or meteorologically identified in the sky. I'm going for the essence, the feel, some light and dark coming through, the little dance, like some swirls and circles, right? Because there's usually, you see those up there, and the movement and oh yeah. All right. So you get the idea. I'm really enjoying this. Painting is about enjoyment, and it's not about lackadaisical enjoyment, if that makes any sense, if that's okay. There's thought involved, there's process, there's motion, there's involvement. There's a lot going on. It's not a passive process. And it is not one from which one can be completely vacant or distracted when working on. Sometimes a certain distraction or whatnot can lead to a serendipitous journey in the composition. But while it's a joyous thing, and it does require some really explicit attention and imagination, but it's also can be very relaxing, a happy place, I've heard it called, from some of my students who I very much miss in this current situation that we're in. Very much. So, all right. Well, we're getting an idea here. I think this is a nice start for a sky. I got it a little bit more purple here, kind of on the bottom, and it's sort of leading to something, and I like that. Now, one of my thoughts when I was going, and again, see, it's not about having an idea and really sticking with it. So I was thinking this might end up being more of a sunset, maybe kind of a piece, considering some of the colors that we have and some of the ones that we're yet to explore. It's duskish, perhaps, but it doesn't necessarily mean sunset. Honestly, there is some, but there's, you know, fair amount of the yellow. But this does remind me of a St. Paul sky. A lot of these colors, a lot of the yellow you'd see come through with the sun, even though the clouds were so heavy and kind of thick around the island. And then purple would be the shadow colors. God, that island was incredible. All right, let's see. So I like this. So there we go. We got to start here for a little sky landscape. We can come in and add a little bit more. In fact, I do like the idea. This feels a little bit. Where am I? Yeah, something a little bit more like that. A little bit more dynamic in there too. Okay, good. I like that. Yeah. So, all right, time to take the next step. What we're going to do is come in with just a line of this and see. Now our eye is leading to something else. Now our eye is like, oh, something else is going on. What is that? What do we have here? So let's see. Now this does it now too, especially thinking about the island, like this, and this little horizon line could definitely feel like the sea. I don't know. I want to include some land because I think that that's an important thing to see and what you can do with yellow and purple. But I hope that you can use your imagination and see this brought down more, but underneath the horizon line, and to look just a little bit more like water, but almost reflected. Maybe you've seen skies and oceans like that. You can imagine how you could make a painting like this. Bring this down some, but a little bit more with making it like some waves. And we will do a piece like that. Just won't be this one. And you can see how that can be done. We're going to do something a little different. And so there we go. I mean, that's what I think we're going to do, but who knows? It might really turn to an ocean thing, but I don't know yet. I think that, well, you can do ocean and land, can't you? So maybe we will. Maybe we just will. But first of all, let's see what we have here for some land. So you can see the big difference already with this yellow and this yellow. One looks like orange and one looks like green, especially when they're next to each other. So we're going to bring some in here. And we're going to add a little bit of our warmer purple. And you can see the difference that we're getting here as opposed to these strong grays. We are getting something that's much more brown. And that is a good thing for what we want to do. What a beautiful mix. What a great thing that happens when you mix complementary colors together. Just a couple different kinds of colors, and I mean purples and yellows, and look at the variety. Look at the things that you can do. So it's pretty neat. We're still going to use some of this cooler purple, especially in the back, because we want to still have a sense of depth. And we don't want to make it jump up too quick in the area that looks like it's going to be, you know, in the back if this is a scene. And just add a little bit, and then I'll come in just a little bit more in here. You can see how I'm trying to keep it a little darker, more purple, and then a little bit more dynamic. Colors boldening a little bit more, but still subdued, and then some bolder colors. And what that does, of course, is it helps us to feel like what we're looking at is getting closer to us or going in the distance. It makes depth type of a perspective. In fact, when you do things like this, it's called atmospheric perspective. to make colors duller and more blue or subdued, and as they go into the distance. So what's this going to be? I'm thinking I want to see what happens with this. And I'm going to add a little bit more of my, a little bit of the green, yellow, a little of the fluorescent in here. I'm going for some kind of rock. Okay. That'll work, but I think I do want a little bit more purple. Yeah, there we go. Kind of dig that. Jagged, different edges. So I don't want it quite like that. Put a little bit more care. There we go. I don't mind the little jagged edges though. So. There we go. Whoop, there's a rock. Or maybe it's a turtle. Can we see this? Here's again, this is the beauty of painting and allowing yourself to add form and then let your imagination take itself to see what becomes of the piece. Can we see this? Can you see this? This was unintentional, how this is the turtle shell and the turtle head, and we can even aww, cute little turtle and his little turtle tail. And so on and so forth. Now it's starting to be like a dinosaur. But why not, right? So we can do that sort of thing. Bring it out, if you wanted to that sense of depth or whatnot. And just put highlights in here and there. You can add your features if you want. But we're not going to really focus on that here. But you can see what can happen. So that's pretty cool. So now we're going to... Bye, Mr. Turtle. Thank you so much for teaching us something. You're very welcome. I'll be here. Don't worry. You might not see me, but I'm going to help the other paint stay on the paper. Thank you very much, Mr. Turtle. Much appreciated. There is something to what Mr. Turtle says as well, because the paint is... I'm sorry, I didn't have to take a moment to chuckle at this train of thought here. But seriously, what Mr. Turtle says is true. The paint underneath, the paint that you layer, does help to build a foundation, does help to make that connection to the surface, make it stick better, make it so it won't flake off, help to keep it solid. It's an amazing thing that can have that it does. So let's add a little bit of white to Turtle Rock over here. And some of you people have, some people out there, let's just say, might know Turtle Rock as something else as well. I didn't say that on purpose either, but so that's a Zelda reference. Anyways, here we go. Back to painting. And just... So we have, we can make these kind of rock formations. In fact, I think it's going to make more sense if we have a few kind of lying about. So we have some on top of others. In a minute, I'm going to move to another area and let this dry for a second, because too much paint on it will, at the same time, will get it mudded up. You want to give it a chance to dry and breathe a bit, and then you can continue to add some layers sometimes. But just to get an idea of what we might be doing. So yeah, there's some light coming down. We don't want it to be too much. Just tons of sun there. That's a little bit better. I like that. And add a little bit more in here. Water on the brush, and come on down in here. So we definitely have something that can be beach-like, sand-like. I remember the island had sand and beaches, and then it had some cliffs and always had some hills around. I think we're going to do that. We're going to extend this out to here. But what we're going to do now is we're going to give a little bit of scenery back here, a little bit of mountain or whatnot, even some surrounding land a little bit, like the harbor on the island. Not the man-made harbor, but there was a number of sort of natural areas where the water kind of came in, and there was beach, and then there were seals, and it's just, oh, what an incredible place. St. Paul, Alaska. So, adding some of this in. One of the things, okay, so I made these seem like they're a little bit bolder than this one, so I'm going to remedy that a little, which is good. I added a lot of color. Now I'm going to take a little watery brush, remove some of it, and bring some of it over here, and we just get more of the idea. These distant hills, maybe. And then up here, we'll have something fat. A couple things like that. And then we'll add a little bit of this. Maybe too much of that. Nope, that'll be all right. And then a little bit of our brighter, cooler yellow. Oh, that's pretty neat. That works. Not unlike St. Paul Island at all. No. A lot of inspiration in Alaska. In fact, you may have heard of another person who did painting videos by the name of Mr. Bob Ross. I don't think he would need the mister. He would say, please call me Bob or friend. Gosh, Bob Ross. I would have loved to have met him, but that's all right. We'll talk more about him with different lessons. There's things that I really like about him and what he does, and then but I also think he only goes to a certain point when it comes to painting. That's okay. It's a really incredible point, and it's pretty cool. But I also believe in a different kind of power that art has that I think people should be exposed to, and that is the ideas of abstraction and serendipity and being able to use one brush and do a whole piece and all these other things. But anyway, I'm trying to say good things about Bob Ross. He's awesome. The point I brought him up for was that he spent a good amount of time in Alaska, and a lot of the pieces that he did on his show are, kind of memories of, reminiscence of scenes that he had seen and or painted in Alaska, or is inspired by that. So it's pretty cool, and for good reason, and it's pretty awesome stuff. So I like this. So we've got something a little bit more detailed here, something definitely more distant back here. And then we have some kind of sandy, rocky beach, a little bit. I think we're going to bring out a little bit more of the kind of rockiness. Adding a few marks like this, and then we'll add our little bit of yellow. So what I'm going to do, actually, because of the way these paints are reacting, is I'm going to do a little bit of mixing right on. This will work better for what I'm doing, to make these tiny little marks and rocks rather than try to blend it. And the paint is not blending super great. In that sense, let us do it this way, and then we'll add it. And I think that'll make for some nicer little rocks. That's going to be cool. So there we go. See? Everyone, can learn when you're painting, doing different things. I learn from what I do and my, shall we say, mistakes, or as the man would say, happy accidents. I learn from that all the time. And it's a good thing. You can grow and learn and evolve. That's a nice gray. That's a nice groggy gray right there. That's a good color. A little bit more back here just to keep that a little bit more subdued, and we'll bring it around a little bit. We're going to add a little bit of white on that. Yeah, give it a little bit more substance. Bring that in here a bit. And again, I'm trying to do something that's probably taking a little more time than I intended, but that's just fine for now. Just to get the idea of what you can do and what things can look like and how you can make a bit of a landscape. So there we go. All right, so we have something. These are starting to come up more up front, stronger sense of depth. And these are back a little bit more. Just to clear it up a little bit. So nice, little rocky kind of a beach. So we are going to have some sea and some water in here. Purple and yellow, by the way, no blue. No orange or whatever, red, green. Purple and yellow, that's it. White's getting a little chalky. That's all right. All right, so let's do this. Let's throw some water in here. It looks like a toxic lake. That's all right. It's going to be reflecting some of the sun and the clouds and stuff. So first of all, I'm going to make a decision. Is this a beach going into the water, or is this going to be kind of a hill? I think the way that it's feeling, I will have the water come in kind of almost beach-like. A little bit of this bolder color in the front, just a little bit. There we go. Mix in a little more white to just give it a little more dynamic and make it not so overtly yellow. All right, and then we'll have this kind of come out a little bit. Maybe here, though, what I would like, up here, there's like a little bit of a drop off. And a little bit of our warmer yellowing in. Just gonna emphasize this edge a little bit, because there was quite a bit of those too in St. Paul, and then this can come out. And then, all right, so we've got some of that. Let's make this try to sort of look like water then, shall we? Again, we're going to take this purple, this warmer purple, and the cooler yellow. A little bit of water, a little bit more. Painting water, it's kind of good to use water. And so we got the ocean's kind of going out this way. There's this horizon over here. Maybe there's little islands, I guess, or whatnot. But whoops, there's my white. There we go. Otherwise, the horizon. So, but we're also going to have water, and it's not going to be big waves in this ocean. Is kind of coming out here. So there's going to be a little bit of this kind of a radius, right? Or this sort of an angle. Because the ocean it's curved, so over here it's going to still look like flat ocean, but then it's coming out over on these rocks, it's splashing this way. Here it's splashing this way. So we want to try to emphasize that in here a little bit. So I'm adding just, yeah, some nice washed colors, a little bit of purple, smaller amounts of yellow because of the way it's been, you know, because it's dries quick and it's powerful. I like that. Oh yeah. And then what we're going to do is, while we still have some water, and then remember our little angles here, we're going to have a few little ripples like things are coming up. Now we're going to take some of our white, and I'm going to mix it a little bit here like this. So some gray, but I've got some water in it and it's a little looser, and I'm going to come back in and do this sort of thing. And remember, their clouds are going to be in the water a little bit, right? So, you know, reflecting. So doing some of those motions, those circles to add your white. See, it really kind of helps to connect the clouds in here, make it almost seem like reflection, but it's still water. So a little back and forth up here, here and there, and then the circles a little bit. Now in here, so we'll have a little bit of, let's make this still feel like it's coming out. And then maybe the water's starting to come down here a little. Maybe we'll make a little bit of a white mark just to indicate that there is some kind of water, some kind of touching connection here, like something like that. There at the bottom, and then another one maybe up here a little, just to, you know, how there's usually a couple ripples that might come up, and sort of emphasize that just a little bit. So anyways, we get a little bit more of a feel of that. And then we have how the ocean just, it starts to, the curve, but then it goes out a little bit. And it makes it look like there's something in the distance. Try to have a little bit more. You know, maybe contrast, distinction, and some of the areas that are closer to us if this is a landscape piece. So a little bit bolder there, and maybe more so here. There we go. And I'll just add a little bit more kind of a purple gray. Mix a little bit first. Just add little bits of it here and there, especially a little bit bolder up front. You know, especially where these little waves might be coming in, a little bit of contrast. And then back here, a little bit more subdued, blended, because it's more distant. Maybe you got a couple little waves up here hitting some rocks in the water. A little bit in the distance there. So anyways, wow, I think we've got something here. If we look at this, we can see we've got a nice start of a piece. We can come back in, maybe add a little bit more here in the sky if we wanted. Define the clouds a little bit more. But with this one brush and this amount of time, you know, and just blending color on here and mixing, look what we got. Remember, we used 3 colors, 5, including the fact that there's 2 yellows and 2 purples. But yeah, we use white, yellow, and purple. And we've got this, which looks like the beginnings of a nice, you know, nice little painting. And it definitely looks like a scene. So this is a lot of fun. And I hope you can see what, with some imagination and mixing and blending and just seeing what you can do with a minimal amount of colors, the dynamic type of paintings and the different scenes that you can get. I want to add a little bit more highlight here just to give it a little more emphasis. And just a little more in the back too. All right, not too shabby, not too shabby. Well, there you have it. Let me try to back up a little here. Not a bad attempt at a piece with using a minimal amount of color, purple, yellow, and white. 2 kinds of purple, 2 kinds of yellow. We made some nice little clouds up here by just mixing and blending and trying to get the feel of clouds and a sense of some space and openness. And so I think we've got that pretty good here. We could go in and highlight a little bit more if we had a little more time, or if you could, welcome to in your own work. And in some areas, but you know, we've got some like rocks in here, rocky beach, some hills. We definitely see some distance in these hills, and I like that purple in here. It's really nice. Connects it all kind of together some. And we were able to, without any blue or green at all, we were able to make something a bit like water, and a bit of a scene with the clouds and everything here. So, you know, these are exercises to see how color can expand exponentially from a small amount of opportunity or variables. When you're just using 2 or 3 different colors and you want to paint a whole scene and you want to make something expansive, then you can really work to explore what it can do by color mixing. And this is the idea of what we try to do here. So I think what we're going to do next time for our next week of lessons, I believe what we'll do is we're going to do a landscape. Well, we're going to do a painting, maybe a landscape, on a canvas with the primary colors. One day we're going to use red and green. The next day we're going to use blue and orange. And the next day we're going to use purple and yellow. That's the pattern we've been going, and I think that's what we'll do, unless I change my mind. So we'll do one painting using the primary colors, but in each session when we work on the piece, we're just going to use one pair at a time. So that'll be interesting. And it'll be on canvas, so it'll be a different kind of experience. So I have to say that I would be looking forward to that. And hope that you'll join us. I hope that you keep being creative, have art in your life, and make the most of everything. And I thank you very, very much for your ear and your time.